Hey, thank you everybody for being here. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Trustees to order at 7:37 p.m. Could we have the roll, please?
Village President Torpy.
Here.
Trustee Clark.
Here.
Trustee Collum.
Here.
Trustee Davis Ford.
Here.
Trustee Levison.
Present.
Trustee Rosner.
Here.
Trustee Schnall.
Here.
Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Mr. Lerner.
Here.
Mr. Rother.
Here.
Susan Caljean, present. Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the press in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-6. In addition, notice of this meeting was posted in Village Hall and on the village website and has been filed in the office of the village clerk. Official action may be taken. Susan Caljean, village clerk.
Thank you. And first, our resolution to go into executive session.
Resolution 323, resolution authorizing an executive session at the December 15th, 2014 meeting of the Board of Trustees.
Okay, and the two items for executive session, there was a bit of a typo, I think, in some of the copies of the agenda. There are two items, both of which are contract negotiations. One is New Jersey American Water contract negotiation. The other is MetaRhythm website contract. Do you have a motion?
I move.
Moved by Trustee Schnall, seconded by Trustee Levison. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? Okay, back here at 8 o'clock.
Howard.
Okay, thank you everybody for being here. I'd like to call this meeting back to order at 8:17 p.m. Could we have the roll, please?
Village President Torpy,
Here.
Trustee Clark,
Still here.
Trustee Column,
Here.
Trustee Davis Ford,
Here.
Trustee Levinson.
Present.
Trustee Rosner,
Here.
Trustee Schnall.
Here.
Mr. Lewis. Here. Mr. Lerner.
Here.
Mr. Rother.
Here.
Susan Caljean, present.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please stay standing for a moment of silence. Thank you. Hey, just a couple quick announcements to get started. We've got a first night announcement, which I'm going to leave to the expert in the room, Mr. Goldberg, who's going to present on that in just a moment. The second is I wanted to make sure to thank the South Orange Village Center Alliance and congratulate them on a pretty incredible showing for the NJ350 pop-up store. I don't know if you have any of the numbers. I know that our store was the #1 performing store in the entire state of New Jersey. So that's pretty cool, commemorating New Jersey's 350th anniversary. So hopefully this was a nice little kind of experiment into not only celebrating New Jersey's history, but also the pop-up store idea, which is something that we've talked a lot about and worked out really, really well. So a lot of folks were involved in putting that together, and just want to make sure to congratulate and thank all of them for such a great, not really event. The next is a reminder that on Sunday, December 21st, from 5 to 6:30 p.m. in Spiota Park, we'll have a menorah lighting. There'll be music, hot chocolate, jelly donuts, and of course the lighting of the menorah. So please come out and join us Sunday, December 21st, again from 5 to 6:30 p.m. in Spiota Park for that. Very excited about that. And also just a reminder that due to the holidays, Village Hall will be closed on December 25th, December 26th, and January 1st. And this will be our last meeting before the holidays, so certainly on behalf of all the village departments and staff and the Board of Trustees, I know I can certainly wish everybody a happy holidays, and I think we're all looking forward to the holidays and getting to spend a little bit of time off before we get going again in 2015, a year that I think will bring a lot more great things to the village here. So with that being said, I'd like to invite up Mr. Goldberg, who's going to present on first night.
Oh, you give him the clock. Yes, sir.
This one? Yeah. You hear me okay?
We're up in time.
He says it's good.
We're good, Stephen? Okay, thank you. Hello, Board of Trustees and Village Administrator, Village Attorney, Village Clerk, and everyone that's here. Thank you very much. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to talk to you a little bit about First Night. As you may or may not know, First Night was a long-standing tradition in South Orange and Maplewood, and for about 20 years, and after a 2-year hiatus, it's back, and hopefully bigger than ever. So I want to take you through a few slides here, tell you a little bit about kind of the history, where it came from, tell you about our event specifically, and how we're doing it, who's going to participate, what the board is that's executing this, that's pulling this all together, and how people can find out more information. So just real briefly, as I said, it was around for about 20 years. It was formed in 1993, and you can see the excerpt there from our mission statement: to broaden and deepen the public's appreciation for the visual and performing arts through an innovative, culturally diverse, and high-quality program on New Year's Eve, and to offer families and the community a shared cultural experience in Maplewood and South Orange that is accessible, affordable, and drug and alcohol-free. So it's meant to be a community-wide, family-friendly event for all ages, and that's the tradition that it's been, and that's what we're going to continue on this year. So specifically, to talk about this event this year. So it is New Year's Eve, December 31st, which is a Wednesday this year. The event's being held in Columbia High School. We're doing it in many of the different venues throughout Columbia High School. There's several gyms, the East Gym, West Gym, Main Gym. There's the main auditorium. There's the Black Box Theater. There's a dance studio. There's classrooms. There's going to be roaming performers. We're just taking over the main floor of Columbia High School. Our event goes from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., and I'll tell you a little bit more about specifically what we're featuring. Can't really see that very well. We have a number of performers, again, for all ages, everyone in the community. We have a magician named Simon Mandel. We have a circus performer named Lisa Liu. We have a sideshow performer named Doc Swan. A hip-hop dance troupe called Ill Style and Peace. And many more, again, for the folks at home that could see that, and you can go to the website to get more information. And our big headliner this year is a group called the Nerds. Any of you that are familiar with the Jersey Shore music scene, they are legendary, the greatest party band you'll ever see. They're largely a cover band, but they do covers of songs like you wouldn't believe. They just put on an incredible show. They still perform very, very actively throughout New Jersey and the metropolitan area, largely down the shore, and they pack clubs to this day. They've been playing for about 30 years together, and they're just renowned around the state, and definitely worth seeing. They're fantastic, and they're our main headliner.
So I didn't know who the Nerds were, and when I asked Michael, he was like, Sheena, think Wolf Blitzer with a guitar. And I was like, whoa, that's big.
You got to speak Sheena's language, Wolf Blitzer, Nerds, So in addition to those main performers, we have many other additional performers, an act called Rizzo's Reptiles. He's going to be bringing some reptile animals for the kids to interact with. A woman named Donna Drupak is going to be doing crafts. Parties over in Maplewood is going to be doing glitter tattoos and having princess characters. We have a balloon twister, face painters, variety artist. He's actually like a stilt walker and juggler. Maplewood Karate, yoga. A group called the SMA Project, which is the acoustic version of Mood Ring, another local band. And then we're having a number of our local restaurants are going to be setting up shop in the cafeteria and selling food. Arioshi, Munchies, Tito's Burritos, the Dancing Blender, and Walia. And then at the end of the night, the grand finale will be fireworks out on Ritzer Field. So we've got a full lineup of entertainment for everybody that could suit everyone's tastes, and we hope everyone will come out and join us.
Michael,
Of course.
the restaurants you have up there are all South Orange restaurants. Are they also Maplewood, or you just showed the
Yeah,
South Orange?
it's a great question, Mark. We solicited restaurants in both towns, and these were the folks that stepped up to participate.
Okay, that's fine.
It was not meant to be
Works out that way. And the second question is the fireworks. What time do they actually start?
So the event goes from 5 to 10.
So 9:30 or so?
It's going to be somewhere after 10. We want to
Oh,
clear
after
the
10.
building.
Okay.
So, we're going to probably say 10, but they'll probably start closer to 10:15, to be quite honest, somewhere around there. And then people will step outside, see the fireworks, and
Yeah,
and
and,
be
and
part.
this is happening rain or shine, the whole event, obviously?
Correct.
Because you can't change the date of New Year's Eve?
Say it again?
You can't change the date?
Can't change the date of New Year's Eve. Clearly.
But the fireworks are going to happen rain or shine?
Fireworks are on rain
Or snow or shine?
Yeah, there is a provision in the contract that if it's really, really a weather event, we can reschedule it, and we'll have to coordinate how we want. We're paying for it regardless, so we don't get a refund, so we'll have to figure out another day to reschedule them. But the event is on regardless.
Michael, are there any sponsors that you want to mention?
Yeah, I do. It's part of my presentation.
Good.
Let me just talk about, again, I'm sorry the print on there is so small. So as far as admission, tickets, we're using wristbands for admission. They could be purchased now online on the website, and I'll talk more about the website shortly, or some of our local merchants. You could walk into a store and purchase them now. In South Orange, it's at Spark House, the South Orange Library, and BCB Bank on Valley Street. And in Maplewood, it's the both branches of the library and King's Supermarket. Prices up until December 24th is $15. So discounted price from now through the 24th. There's an extra $1 surcharge if you do buy online. After the 24th, prices go up to $20, and it'll be $20 at the door or the $21 with the surcharge online. So we're encouraging everyone, buy often, buy early. So take advantage of that discount. Steve, to your point, our sponsors. We could not do this without the help of all of our generous sponsors. Clearly, the Village being one of our major title sponsors. I'm here on behalf of the board to say thank you all, and to the residents for helping to support the event. Likewise, the Township of Maplewood is also a major sponsor, providing in-kind services of police and fire and other logistical support. BCB Bank has been tremendous. They've been a huge, huge supporter. Their branch on Valley Street, they're behind us. They're going to be there at the event with us. So we're trying to help support them. They're supporting us. And likewise, Atlantic Health, or Overlook Medical Center, is also another major title sponsor. Then the next level of our sponsors, we have Maple Crest Ford, which is sponsoring what we're calling the Kids Zone. It's going to, again, the face painters, the balloon twisters, jugglers, and so on. They're sponsoring that. And the new property, the Gateway, Mr. Ayuso and company are generous sponsors that are underwriting the fireworks. So they're the ones who are making the fireworks possible at the end of the evening. And then we have an anonymous donor, somebody who's contributed to the event over time. They don't want to be named. It's an organization, but we do want to recognize them. So that's our sponsors. And again, clearly we couldn't do it without our sponsors. We also couldn't do it without our board of volunteers. So I've been selected or volunteered to be the president. Ileana Castillo is our vice president. Sandy Goodman is our treasurer. She's our one major holdover from boards prior. As I said, this was going on for 20 years. And that board, they just got tired. They got burnt out. And I can understand. It's a lot of work. But Sandy has decided to stick with it. She's our treasurer. Tremendous amount of work. Chick Bisberg, Amy Goldberg, Kathy Greenstone, Scott Greenstone, Karen Harris, Lorelei Jacobs Martinez, her daughter Maya Martinez, and of course our village liaisons, Trustee Collum and Schnall, and from Maplewood, our Maplewood liaison, Committeeman Jerry Ryan. So again, tremendous amount of work, and then we also have on top of that an enormous amount of volunteers that are helping throughout the night, helping direct the public, show people around, help the performers, and so on. And of course, everyone else that's been supportive. Again, the village, Mr. Lewis has been incredibly supportive. I know you guys passed a resolution at your last meeting for insurance, so again, thank you for your support on that. The school district's been incredibly supportive and helpful. So again, it's the old proverbial, it takes a village, but everyone's pulling together to make this happen. And then lastly, if anyone has needs any additional information, we do have a website, firstnightmwso.org. We have a Facebook page at Soma First Night and a Twitter feed at Soma First Night. So there's lots of ways for people to find out more information, to register to volunteer, to buy tickets, to find out the roster of performers. We're going to be publishing the schedule soon. And that's it. We're really excited. We're looking forward to it. We're expecting a really, really big turnout. We've gotten great feedback from people. And we think it's going to be a great event. And that's all I had. So I want to say thank you. Wish you all the best for the holidays. Again, thank you for your support. And if you have any questions, or I'll let you get on with your meeting.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Did you want to touch on that there's not going to be a printed program this year and that an app will be announced?
Yeah, that's great, Sheena. Thank you. So we're taking the approach of obviously trying to save paper, trying to save money, and trying to be pretty high tech. So the schedule, we're going to probably do a one-pager for people that walk in the door with the schedule, the roster, the schedule events on one side, and a map of the high school on the other side. The rest of it there'll be QR codes all throughout the high school. People can click, download an app, and there's an app, and it's all going to be digital. So that way, if we need to make changes, it's just not having to print 1,000 copies of a 10-inch program. So we're not soliciting advertisers in that regard. We have these big title sponsors, and we just felt that was an easier way to go. It's more tech savvy, more environmentally friendly, and just easier for everyone. Anything else?
And do you have any suggestions for people attending the event on parking, what they should do regarding that?
Yeah, parking. I mean, we're going to try to set aside some parking for the performers because a lot of them have equipment that they're going to need to lug. So we're going to have some of that set aside, but we want to try not to take up too much so there will be room for the public. That's the one challenge with Columbia High School. I mean, there's that lot in front, or in front of the main building on Parker, and then it turns out it's really street parking, or there's the lot on the other side of Valley where the students generally park, I believe will be accessible as well. Clearly carpooling, we had toyed with the idea of doing a jitney, but I just didn't know, if it was really practical, and there's the costs involved. So we're encouraging people, share rides, walk if you can. Parking's a challenge, but there's events at the high school all the time, and people make do.
All those
The lot
kids
by
walk
the
to
gym be
school
open?
every day, yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry.
I was just asking if the lot by the gym in the back was the only
Probably
entrance to the event.
probably
We're
the
going to try to
performers.
control, obviously the doors will be open from the outside for safety reasons, but we're going to try to control access to have people funnel in through the main door so they can buy their wristbands if they don't already have it, or we can check for that people have bought their admission bands.
I was just being glib.
Okay.
Sounds about right.
Well, very good. Well, thank you very much. I
Thank you.
appreciate your
Thank you.
support.
Thank you.
And this is sort of a good segue, and as we move on, to welcome the Community Relations Committee up. I think this is just nice on the heels of the presentation from Doug Zacher and the Irvington Ave, the Seton Village Advisory Committee, that there's just a lot of really great work being done by residents, spending a lot of time. So I want to thank Mr. Goldberg for his constructive contributions to this process, and Trustee Collum for getting this going. I think a lot of people are going to be happy to have a first night back in the village. So with that, I would like to welcome up the Community Relations Committee. We've got a couple very exciting presentations tonight.
Pretty funny.
Yeah.
Right.
You can look at it.
No.
Thank you.
That's why Alyssa calls me governor.
Good evening, Village President Torpy, the Board of Trustees, and the village heads. Tonight we're here to honor Villagers of the Month. Now, South Orange has some very extraordinary people who do a lot of volunteering. And you know what's most extraordinary about all the volunteers? They think it's just regular, normal stuff. But they give of their time, they give of their skills. And sometimes they're recognized. In fact, this year, new traditions were started in the village for recognizing volunteers. One of the ways volunteers are recognized is through the Villagers of the Month. Now, we've had extraordinary Villagers of the Month. Some of you know them, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but some don't. So let me highlight a few of what it means to be a Villager of the Month and the pantheon that our two new Villagers of the Month are joining. From South Orange, Rome and the Pope realized that it was Catholics that created anti-Semitism. And a nun by the name of Sister Rose, who Adam knew, fought for that. This is before Pope Francis, so I mean, when I say she fought, she fought. She was a Villager of the Month. We've had people who are parents and have been involved with PTAs all the way up through South Orange adult schools that were Villagers of the Month. We've had villagers who would teach children how to interact globally and negotiate as members of people to people for many years. Because one thing we found with Villagers of the Month, it's not a one-shot deal, it's not a one-year deal. There's perseverance. We've had villagers who felt South Orange was their village, their home, so they cleaned the streets. We've had garden clubs. Yes, they do their neighborhoods, but we also have some that would provide food for shelters, for homeless shelters. And you know what? We've had robots. This is before the bots got to be known, but they were for our community. And then we had professional baseball players. We had a lot of professional people who gave of their time and skills, not for compensation, but because they wanted to make South Orange better. And we've had organizations. Some of you belong to some. Our rescue squad has been a Villager of the Month. We've had many different Villagers of the Month. It's a 30-year tradition in the village. You can read about it, be aware of it in the South Orange website, the current one and a new one that's evolving pretty soon, from what I hear. And you'll see that we've got gas lights, and you're going to find we have volunteers. And in the library, you're going to find there's the South Orange Wiki that goes back and documents 30 years of Villagers of the Month. Now, the one common denominator that comes across with Villagers of the Month is the amount of time they spend volunteering, their time or their skills in one way or the other. As a matter of fact, this year, even for newcomers, we sent out over 90 emails to organizations that people volunteer for. And there are different kinds of categories. We've had businesses. I talked about people. I talked about bots. But our businesses have been involved in Villager of the Month. Whether it was a restaurant that opened its door called Giorgio or its original partner, Arugula. And we're seeing other businesses come in. But there's another category that's special to us at Villager of the Month because it's our young people. It's our student Villagers of the Month. And tonight we're adding 2 more names to that list of Villagers of the Month. So elected officials and department heads, I'd like to introduce you to the 2 student Villagers of the Month for 2014. I want to introduce you first to Miriam Latif. One thing about the Villagers of the Month, we usually find they have a strong core with their family. You may have noticed a few faces in the audience that look like family. But they gave her a platform for which she developed the skills and the traits and the smiles and the warmth that invited other people, other children, other students to come to her. As one of the reasons she was chosen as one of the 50 peer counselors within Columbia High School. There are only 50, and this itself is a tradition that goes back many years of peer counseling. Where did she get that skill set? It's from the values that were transferred to her from her family. Not only was she in peer counseling, but she took on some of the more difficult cases because she's a specialist, even in anti-bullying, static. And she's worked with individual students who maybe felt ignored at home and could have developed into their own problems, but no, not if they knew they had somebody they could talk to. She also does this not just in our district, in our residents, in the school district, but she's also very involved with her mosque because that also means a lot to her. She is following in the footsteps of her family in another way, not just values, as if those weren't enough, but they're pharmacists. Family owns a pharmacy in East Orange. And Miriam is a student at Long Island University getting her degree in pharmacy. And I'm going to put this in as a little footnote. If you really want to know why people will not mess with her anti-bullying, she was also a member of the champion fencing teams that came out of Columbia. You got to really think twice. All right? Skewer has a different meaning when you think of Miriam Latif. I'd also like to introduce you to our second Villager of the Month. His name is Teddy Monahan. Not Theodore. Teddy. And Teddy has been helping villagers for several years at the library, very quietly, constantly, a lot of persistence. And you know what he focused on, what he was able to do the most? Increase the membership of areas where there was low attendance in certain activities at the library. Certain committees, certain clubs were underattended. Who did they bring in to help and make that a difference? 3 or 4 years. Teddy over there. Had to do with Legos and mindset. And a few other of the games. You think kids want to play the games. No, sometimes people have to know they want to play games, want to join committees or so forth. Well, he does that. Now, he also has a very good tie with Miriam as well, because he's also a peer counselor. And the peer counselors have formed bonds, so it's not just helping the students, but they interact with each other. And we've seen over the years that they continue those bonds in terms of wherever they can help. Now we think help. We think, okay, maybe nonprofit, maybe going on into certain psychology. But no, Teddy came home a few days ago from Elon University in North Carolina, where he's majoring in finance. You see, in between the Legos, he found he had spare time to invest in stocks as a student. Started his sophomore year. So he knows there is a way to combine helping people and finance. Maybe one of the benevolent ones. We know what the other kind can do. So the young people that I'm introducing you to tonight care for people. One is going into the pharmaceutical industry, a subset of medical. And the other is going into finance, but also with the same concept of helping people. And I think both of those majors are important to our society right now. So I'd like to congratulate Miriam Latif and Teddy Monahan, our Student Villagers of the Month for year 2014.
I'll keep my small speech very short and sweet. I just want to say thank you so much to the board and the town of South Orange for giving me this prestigious award. It's not lost on me how much it means. And I just wanted to thank everyone involved in shaping me into the person I am today, meaning, the teachers that have helped me pass through all the schools that I've attended in South Orange and Maplewood, and my mosque and everyone there that's helped me to grow, and most importantly, my family, who has given me the values and the traits I needed to succeed. And I hope I can continue to exhibit these same traits in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to give a general thank you so I don't leave anyone out. So thank you all.
I have a
By
question.
the way, I should say Teddy is known as the person of few words with lots of actions.
I just want to say that this is another example of why I love South Orange, and South Orange is my beloved village. But I'm going to have to say that I really have one question for Miss Latif, being a past fencing mom, and we now have a fencing dad on here. And this is a very important question, and I'm waiting for the answer. What was your weapon? Let's see. What was
My
your
weapon
weapon?
was epee.
Epee?
Epee.
All right, that's okay. I'm a saver mom. I'm a saver mom. And your son is foil. And his son is fencing on the same team you fenced on, the Columbia team.
As is Marshall.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Trustee Stahl's daughter has what weapon now?
That would be Saber.
Yes. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations to both of you, and thank you again to the CRC for, I think one of the things we always appreciate is being able to see from the CRC going out into the community and bringing people that are doing amazing things. And I especially love seeing all the energy from young people as well. And it's just really great to see that here. And good luck with everything that you guys are working on, on behalf of the whole board.
Yeah, if I could throw in Janice, thank you, and thank you to the CRC. It's a continuing inspiration to us to just go out and you find volunteers doing great things, and it always makes us feel good, or I can speak for myself anyway, it makes me feel good, makes me want to do more too.
You can speak for me, too.
I think we'll also be taking it back historically in the Board of Trustees meetings and maybe settling some disputes by sword in some of the upcoming meetings.
By weapon.
Yeah, right. Thank you again. All right, so before we move on to any business, I do want to open the meeting up for public comment. So if there's anybody here who wishes to speak, if you come forward. Yeah? Yeah, you can just,
He wants to
now
go.
you got to say something now. So does anybody want to speak? And everybody got up. So it looks like there's nobody for the public comments.
Village President, I should tell you, the Latif family is
You have to
here.
come to the mic. We can't hear you.
Yeah, so people at home can hear
You can do the one
too.
right down there.
Right in front.
Well, all right, I'll announce it right in front. The Latif family took time out to meet with us on their 29th wedding anniversary. And the family is on its way to a celebratory dinner. So I wanted to let you know why they got it.
Congratulations.
I usually tell people they have to stay for the whole meeting, but I think we can grant an exception this time. All right, seeing as there were no public comments, let's move on to the approval of minutes. I believe we've got executive session minutes from October 13th and 27th.
I move.
Moved by trustee Collum.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Rosner. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? And then executive session minutes from November 11th and 24th.
I move.
Moved by trustee Collum.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Rosner. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? All right. Let's move on to our ordinance for first reading.
Ordinance 2014-24, introduction and first reading of an ordinance establishing the salary range for magistrate and chief magistrate.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lewis, is there anything that you want to, any Reader's Digest here?
This is just reflective of what we've discussed this before under the reform of the state insurance program. We're no longer allowed to offer health benefits to part-time employees, so this is reflective of there'll be a loss of benefits we will offset.
You had to speak into a mic. We
mic.
can't hear.
Sorry. Just this follows up on previous discussions where, because of reforms made to the state health benefits program, we are no longer permitted to offer health benefits to part-time employees, which are our magistrates previously received benefits. So given that we are obviously dropping that benefit, this provides for an adjustment to the compensation.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from any trustees? Okay, can I have a motion?
I move.
Moved by trustee Collum.
Second.
Second by trustee Levison. Can we have the roll, please?
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Collum?
Yes.
Trustee Davis Ford?
Yes.
Trustee Levinson?
Yes.
Trustee Rosner?
Yes.
Trustee Schnall?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right.
I move that the ordinance 2014-24 be scheduled for a second reading and final passage at the January 12, 2015 board meeting, and a public hearing be held at that time for the reference ordinance. The village clerk was authorized to take the necessary actions to publish public notice for such hearing.
Okay, moved by trustee Davis Ford.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Collum. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Okie dokie. Let's move on to the consent agenda.
Okay, resolutions number 324 through 327 are on the consent agenda.
Mr. Lewis was.
Yeah, 324, we need to poll. We're working through some final details on that.
Okay, so we're going to do 325 through 327. Do I have a motion?
I move.
Moved by trustee Collum.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Schnall. Could we have the roll, please?
Trustee Collum?
Yes.
Trustee Davis Ford?
Yes.
Trustee Levinson?
Yes.
Trustee Rosner?
Yes.
Trustee Schnall?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. The approval of bills. Trustee Levison.
Yeah, can you explain why you're pulling 324?
We're working through some issues with Natalia and the purchasing agent relating to the term and the nature of it.
I move the bills list that has been audited by the treasurer and copies given to the board previous to this meeting.
Second.
And if I could, there was an oversight on our in the office between myself and finance and village council. Had two sets of bills that were not included on the bills list. That if with your because this is the last meeting of the year, the bills they're dated November 4th and I believe November 11th. in total is $58,495.71, covering both current fund obligations and all the East Orange water litigation. And I've reviewed them, and the CFO's reviewed them. And it was an oversight that they weren't included, and if we don't, otherwise we'll wait till January.
Okay.
This is money due to East Orange?
No, these are post-Pollock bills.
Oh,
Yeah, we
okay.
don't pay East Orange. Relating in part to East Orange, okay.
So I still say.
So that was moved by Trustee Levison and seconded by Trustee Schnall. Could we have the roll, please?
Trustee Davis Ford?
Yes.
Trustee
Yes.
Levinson? Trustee Rosner?
Yes.
Trustee Schnall?
Yes.
Trustee Clark?
Yes.
Trustee Column?
Yes.
Thank you.
Alrighty, so let's move on to the next half of our meeting, our reports. I got a couple updates here. So one is from my class, Seton Hall University. I just want to make sure to just thank Dr. Matt Hale, who is my co-professor there. We had a really interesting last class, which was one of the assignments for the students was to take an ordinance, most of which they took from the Citizens Campaign model ordinance, best practice ordinances. They got assigned a town in Essex County, and they went out and part of the assignment was to try and get the ordinance actually passed in that particular town. So that involved going to meet with city council members, with business administrators, with clerks. Every student had, so they were presenting on all of those experiences, and each student also kept a journal of that of their experiences doing that. I'm not going to name towns by name, but there were some pretty interesting lessons from some of the students. Some had some very good experiences, and we're actually hopeful that 2 or 3 students might actually get ordinances passed in January or February. It obviously takes a long time from the conception of an idea to actually getting something passed, as we all very well know. There were a couple very terrible experiences where towns were rejecting Oprah requests and talking, in fact, one of them talking about the student during the town council meeting, did not realize the student was actually in attendance. There was a lot of not answering Oprah requests and then obfuscating things. Pretty interesting. Had some pretty good lessons, though. I collected a couple. I'm not going to read through them all because that would probably take a little bit too long, so I've got some more updates, too. But there were a couple lessons that came out through some of them, through some of the different presentations. One of the interesting things that people said was that a lot of the folks they talked to at different towns, especially a lot of people went to clerks' offices as kind of their first stop. They found people very personally helpful and very personally interested in helping them, but also very honest with the fact they were like, oh, there's no way they're going to do this. And so people were trying to get green roof ordinances passed, people were trying to get best price insurance ordinances passed, things that are really interesting ideas. And they found the institutions and bureaucracies, very difficult to navigate. And all of them talked about getting transferred from department to department to department, trying to get an answer from someone. And one of the other interesting things was, which kind of speaks to the importance of having a 311 system, where basically the idea is as that gets better and better here in South Orange, right, is the resident goes to one place and we do all the internal configuring and get them back an answer, right? And you're not sending a resident around to different departments on, a wild goose chase trying to get some information. And the other was that they found that they all preferred to communicate with town officials over email, just on a personal level, and also so that it helped them maintain kind of all the records. But they also found that to be the least effective form of communication, and they got much faster responses and answers by calling people up on the phone. And they also pointed out, I think kind of accurately, that local government is interesting. It's so much more responsive than state and federal government because they can just walk into the town hall, as many of them did, and say, hey, I've got this question. And it's kind of hard to do that at higher levels of government, just to kind of waltz in and say, hey, got this idea, what can we do? That being said, some of the students had some really fascinating experiences and lessons learned, and it's all really exciting because a lot of these kids are students, half of them are probably older than me, are going to be going into working in local government when they finish their master's degree. And so seeing it from the citizen side and seeing how difficult it was to do certain things and where things worked and where things didn't work, hopefully will be a really interesting perspective for them as they then sit on the other side and do that. So that was just really great. And again, I mentioned this at the Seton Hall holiday dinner event. There was dinner. And that, this I know for me personally, this allowed me to get to know Seton Hall students in a different way. I've met and talked to a lot of student government people, as a lot of us have, as they've gotten more involved. But actually getting to see students in the academic environment talking about government was really cool. Another sort of kind of report back was from an event that I was at 2 weeks ago called the Millennial Action Project Leadership Summit. This is an organization that was started by a young guy, and the idea was to help coordinate bipartisanship in Congress. So they have a young Democratic House Representative, a young Republican, Tulsi Gabbard and Aaron Schock started this Future Caucus that now has maybe 15 or 20 different members of Congress in it, and it just started out with the two of them. They were both the youngest members of Congress, the two youngest members of Congress at the time. And so the whole event included senators, House representatives, local elected officials, state representatives, and a lot of people that are just trying to find ways to get outside of the box, especially at the state and federal level, and get around some of the partisanship and actually get some things done. So that was pretty cool, and talking about some of the work that we do here and how we've formed a really good kind of brain trust on this governing body of not really letting politics infuse our discussions, but really just trying to figure out how to work on things. It's really great to be able to go out and kind of share those success stories with other people that are interested in getting involved in government or other people that are doing it elsewhere. A similar report from two other events, two panels that I got the chance to speak on for Politico. One was part of a series called the What Works series, which is spotlighting different city innovations around the country. So it was about a dozen mayors, 15 mayors from around the country, the mayor of Chicago, the mayor of Atlanta, the mayor of Chattanooga, the mayor of D.C., the mayor of St. Louis, a lot of city mayors. And so it was definitely a huge privilege to be able to be there representing South Orange and talking with some other mayors and chief technology officers and things about what they're working on and getting to share some of the stories about what we're working on from a technology standpoint, from a citizen engagement and like resident volunteer standpoint, from the economic development standpoint, from the arts and culture. It was tough because one of the other panelists was the mayor of Santa Barbara, and they clearly have a little bit of an edge as far as weather and like beach and surfing proximity. But from talking a little bit about South Orange, the panels tend to go by very quickly. Audience members afterwards were who came up, were pretty like interested to hear about this like kind of cool art, music, diverse town outside of New York City that they had never heard about before. So it's really exciting to get to kind of go out and introduce people not only to the community but to the work that we're all doing. The next one was an event on leadership styles, and it was talking about they had incoming Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, as well as Newt Gingrich and Tom Daschle and a whole bunch of other, really pretty, sort of high-profile political figures talking about their ideas on leadership. And I was on a panel which included a young congresswoman talking about how a younger generation looks at solving some of these issues, which tends to be very much not partisan focused, which we obviously do a great job of here in South Orange. It tends to not be interest group focused, where they're looking at trying to affect change for like a broader community, not just for whoever they feel they represent individually, which I think is a change from maybe the way politics, even at the local level, worked maybe 20 or 30 years ago. And so again, it was just a great group and really interesting to get to, infuse some stories about what we're doing here in South Orange to these larger national dialogues about how government is changing, how politics is changing, how young people especially are trying to figure out whether they want to interact with the government or not. And as we see people come in and kind of interact with us, it's just kind of helpful to get to learn about the larger narrative and to also get to tell, again, our stories about what we're doing here, which people are, really, really interested to hear about. And so I just wanted to, that's been a pretty busy couple weeks as far as those things go, but wanted to make sure to kind of update everybody on that, on those couple things. A couple other things. And one more thing to add about that actually was that there seemed to be a little bit of a paradigm shift in elected officials, and I know I'm one like this, and I think most of us are to some degree, is that we believe that there are responsibilities beyond just like the statutory duties of being in the office, right? That we're representing the people in this town, so whether it's on transit and transportation issues, or whether it's on issues like marriage equality or anything like that. We've talked about advocating a better legislative agenda, from our governing body. That is something that, and young people seem to want more of that from their elected officials. It's not just about doing the job of whatever office you're in, but it's also kind of taking like a moral stand on larger issues. And there were definitely people who don't think that that's what people in office should be doing. And it seems like the tide is kind of turning to, if you've got a soapbox, you should use it, which is definitely something that I agree with, and I think that we do a good job of doing as well. So 2 other things. One is I had brought up this idea of trying to create maybe a housing or co-working space that might be focused for veterans starting their own business. I've had a couple conversations that have been really positive about that there are actually some state and federal incentives to do that. I don't think I can really get into too many more details because some of this is negotiations with developers that are thinking about doing things, but there are incentives available, and apparently you're potentially allowed to use a percentage of your affordable housing obligations focused specifically for veterans, which is really cool. And so if we're able to create a space where you're not only providing somewhere for people that's obviously given a lot to us, and whatever any level of government can do for them, we should. But if there's also a community that you're creating around kind of entrepreneurship and starting your own business, and that we basically want to be this town that we've talked about before, where we're not just supporting retail merchants, but we're supporting everybody in town who has a business idea, whether or not they're selling at a store in the downtown or not. So that's just something that's ongoing, and just had a couple kind of interesting and reassuring conversations that that there's a possibility of doing something there, which would be very cool. One other project that we're kind of slowly putting together here is a handbook for new elected officials. I know that was certainly something that was like a brick wall when I got elected, and I know I've heard that feedback from a couple of you guys too, is that when you get elected, right, you don't get anything, really. You don't get a guidebook or handbook on what to do and how to do it. And so along with our clerk, I've been talking a little bit about we've been putting together some documents and an outline of, basically what people would get when they get elected that would contain a whole bunch of different information from things like, general larger governing documents and information from some of our charter and maybe the U.S. Constitution and Jersey Constitution, then getting down to some of our protocols. So things like the rules of order for our meetings and, a parliamentary procedure kind of like tip book, but also kind of how we typically do things here, because it's not necessarily the way that it's done everywhere else. Logistics of, when you're in office and how to do different things, how committees work, the idea of, when a resident has an idea about something, what's the best way to respond to that, bring it to your committee, do the analysis, make the recommendation to the full board, have the full board consider it. If something comes to the board, how do you send it back to the committee for a study? Just trying to iron out some of those things that when someone gets elected, they can sort of get up to speed a little bit quicker on that process.
If you would like some support on that, I just created and held on December the 4th and 5th a 2-day workshop orientation for the freeholders, because I have 4 new freeholders. Well, there are 4 new freeholders joining the freeholder board. And so any resources that I can share with you in that way, if you believe it may be helpful, just let me know.
Sure. No, thank you. And I'm going to actually get to that in just a second. I appreciate that thought. There were a couple other things, too, supporting documentation, a guide about the Open Public Records Act, the Open Public Meetings Act, ethics laws, municipal land use laws, and basically seeing if the League of Municipalities has got any documentation as well. So to address Trustee Davis Ford's point, one of the things that I wanted to do was send out a little survey to everybody on the board, and just with a couple questions about what your experience was like when you got elected, and if there were things that were particularly challenging or things that were easy or hard to understand. And I'm going to send that out to some other elected officials as well, so that we're not just kind of making things off the top of our head, but getting a little bit of data around it. So I'll send that out at some point, and if people have any ideas about things that they could have used when you got elected, include that there, and we're going to try and put something together, that hopefully can stay in town, so that anytime somebody new comes in, it's a little bit more welcoming of a process. And hopefully, that this binder or whatever we put together can also be kind of a template for other towns. And so when we do that, there's going to be, documents that are specific to South Orange, like, our budget document. But as a new elected official, you should probably have a couple years of budget information. And so what would be nice is to be able to take that document that we put together, that whole collection, and basically distribute that template to other towns and say, hey, if you guys are trying to help your new elected officials get up to speed, we've kind of went through the thought process, figured out what works and what doesn't work, and here's something, free to use it as you wish, that might be helpful for you too. So again, one of those kind of things that if we can do something good here and we can tell other people about it, why not? So again, I'll send those surveys out to people, and if people, any suggestions or anything like that, I'd be really interested in any other experiences. And in fact, Trustee Davis Ford, if you have any documents like that that you want to send over to me.
I'll send you the outline. It was a 2-day workshop with
That would be
modules,
great.
just like you said. One on Oprah, one on agenda process, one on bylaws, one on the code, which is the Bible, one on purchasing, the director of purchasing. So, if that's helpful, I'll be happy to share that with you.
Yeah, no, I'm going to make a note of purchasing right now. So thank you. And so that is everything that I had. Mr. Lewis?
I had a couple things on my notes. One, just an update on the budget. We, as we indicated at the last workshop, there's still a number of items that are outstanding that we're waiting on. A number of them relate to year-end. We did get some additional information. We actually got our joint meeting assessment from Trustee Levison, provided me with that today. Again, a number of the items will be year-end items, so we won't really know where the dust settles until it settles. So my thinking is to look potentially for another workshop towards the end of January. So I'll send out maybe a doodle poll and gauge some dates, and we can pick a date for that, or maybe try and pair it up with a board meeting again. The grant radio, I knew we'd only filed it a little over a week ago, but then I realized we have meetings back to back, so we did already mention that at the last meeting that we filed the grant for the radios. Couple of quick redevelopment updates. Third and Valley is progressing. We had a meeting attended by myself, Trustee Levison, representatives from the Parking Authority Board, as well as Mr. Hartwick. Met with the Jonathan Rose folks, their proposed parking vendor, to discuss a number of parking issues. I think it was productive. There's still some things to be resolved, but we're making progress. At that meeting, they also indicated they still see themselves on target for looking for COs in November of 2015, which would be really exciting. Gateway, as you all know, is now fully CO'd and a number of people moving in, so we will be, and I'm working with Mr. Ayuso, and hopefully we'll be soliciting again your availability for a grand opening ribbon cutting in the not too distant future. Church Street, Mr. Ayuso was able to advise me that the last remaining piece, the demolition related to PSC&G's disconnection of the services, not surprisingly. But that is now complete, so we will also be coordinating a date and time for those. Irvington Avenue, so the redevelopment studies, the rehab studies completed. Redevelopment studies are being finalized. We've already had some interest from a number of developers who see the activity going on and who are aware of the ongoing redevelopment studies, and who are also aware of the rehabilitation town-wide and the potential that that has to facilitate some redevelopment down there, and we'll be meeting with some interested folks in the coming weeks for potential projects down there. Village Hall, a couple updates. The renovation, we're out to bid. There was a contractor walkthrough. All the pre-qualified contractors all did participate in the walkthrough, which they all indicated was extremely helpful in their process, seeing the building completely gutted and to know what they're getting into. Again, as it stands right now, those bids are due on January 22nd. There is always the possibility that if questions and things come up that generate addendum, you have to push the bid time down to at least 10 days beyond the latest addendum date. So that could move a little bit, but that's the schedule. On the RFP for the alternative and adaptive reuse, that's out on the street, has been mailed out by the consultant. I've had some inquiries from some firms expressing, right now it's so preliminary that they're looking at it, but that is moving along as well. And we will be looking to coordinate a meeting of the committee that we're going to put together for that, also in the beginning of January. And then a couple things that I didn't list, but I did just want to mention, the village president referenced it. I was also had the privilege of attending President Esteban's holiday reception at Seton Hall. Always a very nice function, but I think also, more importantly, really great to get together with the Seton Hall folks, continue to build, I think, this increasingly positive relationship that we have with them. We had our holiday party, as you're all aware, and I think we're all able to attend on Friday. On behalf of not only myself, but I think all the employees, I'd like to express our appreciation to the board for your support. I know universally the employees appreciate it, appreciate your recognition of everything they do all year, and I certainly join you in that recognition. And it's also just a great opportunity, I think, for a lot of departments and a lot of people that don't see each other very often to get together in an informal, non-work related attitude. So everybody had a great time, so thank you for that. Also had the privilege after that of going to the Irvington Avenue tree lighting, and I know that was referenced as well. So again, kudos to the Irvington Avenue Committee, now known or soon to be known as the Seton Village Advisory Committee, for all the great work they're doing. It's been, I think, really a fantastic first year. Was unable due to a conflict to go to the hometown holiday from Soak on Saturday, but heard nothing but good reports on that as well. So congratulations to everybody and happy holidays to everybody.
I have a question regarding if you can give us a status or an update on the Village Hall project, and also if any other information surrounding that you can share.
The renovation or the adaptive reuse?
Both.
Okay. As I indicated a little bit earlier, we are out to bid. All of the pre-qualified contractors did walk through the project and did express that was very helpful to their assessment of the project. Bids there are due on the 22nd. There's the possibility that'll get pushed back if addendum are issued. And then on the other end, on the adaptive reuse, the RFP is sort of out there. It was sent out by the marketing consultant. I have had some feedback and inquiries for some additional information from people who received that. We will continue to obviously field and provide information. Those are due on January 8th, so we will look to schedule a meeting immediately thereafter to get, I think, a first pass of what proposals may or may not come in, to be in a position to then sort of assess those against bids that will come in later in January or early February.
And just a reminder that I requested to be part of that review process for both. And
we might want to appoint that at the next meeting, because I think a lot of people on the board are interested in that committee. I sent names to you. You were going to do it, I think, coming up soon. And so you might want to poll the board and see who wants to be involved with that. It might just need to be a publicly noticed meeting, and if you have more than two.
To keep the group semi-small, but I mean, if anybody's interested, send me an email and tell me right now.
I told you right now.
I told you 3 months ago also.
I haven't forgotten.
There you go.
And I'm interested.
I'll sell my spot.
I just want to add something. Thanks for a great report. And this was one of those great days where we heard about so many great things. Presentation about first night, presentation about Students of the Month. Alex, kudos on attending these great events. But there is one kind of sad, very distressing thing, and I do it in particular with the administrator's report. That after the Irvington Avenue event, which went so well, after that there was a pretty bad episode of vandalism and a destruction of a lot of things. So I was just saying it, but actually what I'm going to reach out to the public in cases like this. There are some leads. Our police force follows up on things as much as possible, but if there are individuals out there who feel that they perhaps know who might have done that or can give us some information about that, I would ask that they report that. I don't know. I assume it would be to yourself or the police, but if anybody has a tip, this is often done in urban environments where they have a tip line, but I don't know if we have anything that in place.
We have a tip line.
We do have a tip line.
We do, and it's on the website.
As well.
Yeah, and that is anonymous, and certainly even if you call, we will protect anyone's anonymity, and certainly with regard to that episode or anything else, and to that end, and that episode in particular, to the extent any shop owners or store owners are out there that may or may not have security cameras that may or may not be helpful, we would certainly appreciate that input as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Rother?
Yes, on the waterfront, we're finalizing terms on two contracts. One with New Jersey American Water, we're at the fine points in that contract, and another with our consultants HDR to help us determine finally what quantity of water we should be contracting for. Hopefully, both of those contracts will be in a form that can be addressed by this board in January. In connection with those contracts, we are also talking to the New Jersey Environmental Infrastructure Fund for some very, very low-cost financing for the studies and the actual work that we may have to do to the system once we take it back. That's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, Trustee Clark.
So let's see, public works and infrastructure. There we are. I think that's a little better, right, Steve? In regard to public works and infrastructure, the next meeting will be this coming Thursday. However, I do have some updates from our village engineer regarding the duck pond and skate house renovations, which are moving forward. He's got plans in hand for those. We need to review those later this week, and should still be on target to go for spring. Additionally, the pedestrian bridge installation by the DPW and Chiswick's area field also have plans for those, and want to review those later this week. And that's one where we actually have a transportation enhancement grant in the amount of $560,000. So looking forward to that as well. Let's see, Energy Policy Committee, we're still looking for a new chair to lead the group. So anyone out there who's interested in energy as a topic and conserving it in our town, please contact me at my village address. That's wclark@southorange.org. Let's see, for the Environmental Commission, the Green Team, as we talked about in the last one, there is a alternate member spot open now. And the Green Team is also looking for members to help both with recertification within the Sustainable Jersey program, but also people who want to specifically work on the upcoming River Day project. So if you've been involved with that in the past and would like to take a greater role, please reach out to either myself or to Jim McGowan, who is the Environmental Commission Chairman. Let's see. Third item, some of you may know that our Green Team works with the Green Teams of Maplewood and Millburn on some larger projects spanning all three of our towns and sometimes larger areas as well. One new one we've begun working on is a project to try to promote a state energy conservation program, which is already in existence, the Home Performance with Energy Star program, but it does not get a lot of exposure or a lot of usage, probably due to the fact that it is not well promoted, and it is also kind of confusing. So one of the things we were trying to do as a group of three Green Teams is to focus on saving residents money and reducing their carbon footprint, and to try to find ways to simplify that message and that project process and get it out to a wider range of people and residents within Essex County, and do it in a more probably a more word-of-mouth kind of way. For those of you who have not heard of it, this is a program where residents can receive either rebates up to $5,000 or interest-free loans for energy upgrades to their residential properties. The loan repayment amount is often the same or lower than the amount saved that the homeowner achieves based on any upgrades they've made to their energy systems at home. So there might not actually be an outlay of cash on a month-to-month basis. One of the good things about the program is that you choose a contractor to do this, and the contractor does the paperwork, which is nice. So if you are interested in finding out more about that, you can go to NewJerseyCleanEnergy.com for the time being and look for the Home Performance with Energy Star program. And that is that.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Rosner?
Development Committee met a few different topics. One was one that I would point out that we were told by the Development Committee there's a shortage of bike racks underneath the trestle on both South Orange Avenue and the other train trestle, confirmed with Walter Clark, that some have been missing. I reached out to New Jersey Transit, who said they're going to come survey the situation and let us know, and they'll probably just put some more racks in at both locations. How long it takes, I don't know, but we'll bug them to make sure it gets done before the spring. Two other things. One of the things we were asked to review was allowing extended hours of for certain businesses. Request actually came from Rite Aid to allow us to allow extended hours. The stores, which right now can stay open till 11, they want to be allowed to stay open later. Part of it had to do with Seton Hall students not having a place to go and other people who wanted the store, and they felt there was a need for it. So I did reach out to the planner to ask her to reach out to other towns just to see how they've handled it. Reach out to the police chief to ask him if there's any safety issues. Also want to just gauge. I think that generally none of the trustees were opposed to extending it to 1 a.m. None of the trustees on the committee, that is, were opposed to extending it to 1 a.m. But that's one of the things that we're looking into, and we're waiting. So if anyone has any comments, feel free to discuss with me or someone else on the committee. But I will let you know what the planner says, who's going to send us a draft ordinance to another town that's considering the same thing.
Mark, I added that too. We have a code review meeting, the ongoing code review. It's this Friday, so I added that to the agenda also to get feedback from the different business stakeholders if they have any insights.
Yeah, that'd be good. And you're also going to ask Mr. Zuckerman for his opinion about it, right? And the item that has a budget impact is, we used to have a program called the Front Program. It was administered by Main Street that allowed a certain amount of money to be spent each year, and stores got a grant, so to speak, from the village, a matching grant for signage. The Village Alliance and actually the village, and not just for the main district, we'd like to expand that, bring back that program, whatever name they call it, and allow facade improvements, and not just for the awning or the sign, but for the whole front, including the window area, and do the similar type of program where they can get 50% up to $2,500 on that store, and that would be for down anywhere in obviously in the redevelopment district, Irvington Avenue and Valley Street, or so-called retail corridors. So we guesstimating, we don't really know, but if we did $25,000, that would be up to 10 stores. And I think because the program has not been around for a few years, that we probably would need 25,000 the first year. It might be lesser numbers in future years. And we would also require that get approved by a so-called design committee, which the Village Alliance has one. And even though their main goal is just the downtown, I think we need to use somebody like that and just reach out for the resources for Irvington Avenue and Valley Street, if any of those stores so desire. So I think the committee would like to recommend that we do this, and we'd have to find a place in the budget, or Barry would have to find a place in the budget to take that get that $25,000 for. So
it's also supported by both the Seton Village.
Right, by the Village
and
Alliance.
rightfully so. I mean, who's going to turn down money? But it's been a part of the ongoing efforts of the business code review, and a lot of the feedback that we received both from SOFCA for their surveys and then what we did on Irvington Avenue has to deal with the look and feel of some of the properties, both in the downtown district and also on the other corridors. And so the best way to try and address this is offer some level of incentive to get people to make these improvements because they haven't made them on their own. And to Mark's point, it would be regulated through a design review board. So right now, SOFCA has their own internal committee. This would be an established board that not only would help facilitate this matching grant program for facade improvements, but also would be an intermediary between village staff and going to the planning board when people are proposing changes to signage that wouldn't cause them to have to hire professionals to go for variances, but rather appear before an intermediary to approve slight adjustments, not site plan adjustments or anything like that. So it seems like, because we're in the budgeting stages right now and we're getting ready to make a series of recommendations, that's ultimately something that we need to somewhat agree to so that we can build in the language to the code regarding a design review board and what their authority and powers are.
You should also add, because of what's going on in Irvington Avenue or Seton Village area, I would suspect that several of those stores would be looking to improve their stores at this time, or certainly in the next year or so. And the other, we also talked about there are a couple of empty stores where landlords could also use some improvements, and I think we would not put a restriction on it if it was possible for an empty store to improve their frontage to make it more attractive to rent out the store, which we know. We've heard a complaint about a couple of the spaces that are very difficult to rent right now, and partly because of the way the space looks and because the landlord has claimed, because of the location, taxes, et cetera, needs assistance, which, so those are the things. So we'd like that to recommend that we include that and work out the details if it is approved, as so much as Sheena outlined about the design review board.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. Okay. At this time, I'd like to open the meeting up for any public comments. If there's anybody who wishes to speak. And it does not appear there is. So is there any new business? It appears not.
Move to adjourn.
So I would like to ask for a motion. Trustee Rosner moves.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Davis Ford. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yeah.